where are the most touristy parts of the Oregon coast. In this video, we're going to break down the top 5 most touristy parts of the Oregon coast, mostly for people that are thinking about moving here and don't want to live next to a short-term rental, which oftentimes equates to parties. But this information will also be good for investors or somebody that's thinking about buying their first investment property. You're going to be able to see where you might expect to have a higher occupancy rate and thus a greater return on your investment. All that starts now. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel Living on the Oregon Coast. I'm your host, Seth Marchant. As I mentioned, 5 of the top touristy towns along the Oregon coast. Well, what's the methodology? How did I make that determination? What we are looking at is areas that have the most short-term vacation rentals. And coming in number 1 on the list is going to be Lincoln City. Now, by the way, I would take these numbers with a grain of salt. The data that I'm using here comes from a company called AirDNA. They combine data from VRBO, which is Vacation Rental by Owner, and Airbnb, as well as some third-party data that they probably scrape or purchase from somewhere. But it's mostly VRBO and Airbnb data. So for that reason, you're going to find a little bit of redundancy. There's probably not quite actually 1.2 thousand short-term vacation rentals in Lincoln City, which has a population of just over 10,000 people. So there's going to, like I said, there's going to be some redundancy in here. So that number won't quite be as high. It might be closer to 800-900, maybe 1,000, something like that. But this area along the Oregon coast is going to have really about as high of a concentration, or at least as many vacation rentals as anywhere else that you're going to find. You can see the occupancy rate there listed by AirDNA is 63%. And one thing that's important to know about Lincoln City, if you're thinking about moving there and you don't want to be around the vacation rentals, there is definitely one place that you're going to want to avoid. What you're looking at here is a zoning map of Lincoln City, all the different zones in the legend right down here. There is one zone in particular, VR, zoned to vacation rental, which can be found right here, right in this little spot right here, also known as Olivia Beach. I'll take you to a map here. It's in the Nelscott area. So right around here where it says Olivia Beach Community Park, all of these homes for the most part are going to be short-term rentals. So if you are somewhere within this neighborhood and you don't want to be around short-term rentals, definitely going to want to avoid that. But beyond that, you can find any one of these 1,000 or so short-term vacation rentals all the way from here where it says Lincoln City down here to Lincoln Beach. There is one more exception up here in this area called Rhodes End. This area actually allows single-family homes to be used as a vacation rental, short-term vacation rental, which is defined under 30 days, up to 30 times per year. So you're probably also going to find a pretty high concentration of rentals in that particular area. Now, for all of you investors, Lincoln City definitely going to be one of the more popular places along the Oregon coast, and hence the touristy, the tourism title, and coming in at number 1. But I would also caution you that Lincoln County is going to be probably one of the more riskier, maybe the riskiest county, and Lincoln City being the riskiest probably city in all of the county. In order to obtain a short-term vacation rental permit, there has been a moratorium in the past. A lot of people that don't want there to be any more vacation rental permits. In fact, the county just recently, in this past year, created 7 new zones which are going to limit the amount of short-term vacation rental permits in the unincorporated areas. And for Lincoln City, right now there's something like 120, 130 maybe short-term vacation rental permits in unincorporated areas. That number is going to go down. It's right here actually. 138 is what it's currently at. That number is going to go down to, I think it's like 42 or 44 or something like that. So these other 100 or so short-term vacation rental permits will expire at some point. They won't be renewed, or the property will be sold, in which these permits do not convey, so they don't transfer with the sale of the property, and eventually those will go away. Just south of Lincoln City, you've got Depot Bay, followed by Newport, Walport, and then Yachats. So all of these zones are going to be limiting short-term vacation rentals. something to keep on the radar for all of you investors. Next on the list is going to be, and you might have guessed it, Seaside, really right about the same, listed at 1.2 thousand short-term vacation rental listings according to AirDNA. Occupancy rate was right about the same, 61%. Lincoln City was 63%. And here's the thing to know about Seaside. This is the city's website, and this little map right here, it might be kind of hard to see. I'll take you to a bigger map on Google in just a moment here and make it a little bit easier to understand exactly what it is that we're looking at. But this map right here, this is the areas where Seaside gives out short-term vacation rental permits, and they don't necessarily give those to anybody and everybody. They are following a certain density that they're trying to keep things within. And what they say is that the VRD standing for Vacation Rental Dwellings, this permit is issued by the Planning Commission or Planning Director as an accessory use for the property. So the primary use should be for the applicant's personal residence, second home, or other primary residential issues. The current policy for Planning Commission is only to support the approval of one VRD conditional use permit per owner or ownership. So if you're thinking about moving to Seaside and you don't want to be around vacation rentals, you're going to find a very high density of them, which is going to be just west of the Nicanacum River. So looking at this map right here, looking north to south, this is that river that you just saw right here, the Nicanacum River. So the vast majority of short-term vacation rentals in Seaside are all going to be over here. So if you want to avoid those, if you're somebody that's moving here, they are going to be tough to avoid if you're going to be over here. If you're an investor, just know that it's not guaranteed that you can get one of these permits. You might have to wait a while. Next on our list is going to be Rockaway Beach. Now, Rockaway Beach is going to be the most friendly, I would say, friendly to investors, friendly to short-term rental permits, the most friendly place on the Oregon coast as far as getting a short-term rental permit. Currently, they say, according to AirDNA, 842 short-term rental permit listings. And the reason why I say that is there is no wait list right now. Anybody can get a short-term rental permit pretty much anywhere throughout the city. So it doesn't matter what the zoning is. And the sort of the feel, the vibe of the town, and some of the discussions that have been had both online and that have been published in local newspapers on this topic is that for the most part, people are very favorable to leaving this very unrestricted for people that have short-term rentals. So this town really thrives on all of the revenue that's driven by all of the tourism that comes for these short-term rentals. So for that reason, I say this area is probably the most friendly. It has been historically, and it looks like it will probably be the most friendly going forward. If somebody's thinking about moving here and you want to avoid all of those short-term renters, all those partiers, all the tourism, Rockaway Beach would probably be one of your last choices. If you're an investor, it's going to be up there at the top of your list. Now, this is the application from the city. Rockaway Beach short-term rental FAQs. Who's eligible to apply for a short-term rental license? A property owner who holds title or recorded land sale contract to a property for a short-term rental license. So basically anybody that owns a property in the area. And like I said, we don't expect that to change anytime in the near future. Rockaway Beach is going to be you're still on the north coast, just south of Seaside, south of Manzanita, but north of Pacific City, Tillamook. All right, number 4 on our list is going to be Manzanita. We just saw Manzanita right there, just south of Cannon Beach with 446 active short-term listings. Now, some of these cities actually do have the number of short-term rental permits that they've given out or that are currently listed. Some of them require you to list a name of the owner and an address. Manzanita is one of those cities, and I can tell you that there's something like low 200s, maybe 211, 213, something like that, short-term rentals listed on the city's website. So again, that's why I know why some of this data is going to be redundant, but it still gives us an idea of the places that are going to have the most short-term rentals. So Manzanita coming in at number 4. One thing you might notice, the average daily rate, $384. If we go back and we look at Rockaway Beach, we're in the high 200s. Seaside, also high 200s. 270 for Lincoln City. So this number quite a bit larger, 30% larger, something like that than the other places. Real estate over here around Manzanita is going to be more expensive. So that's part of the reason why. Now, as far as getting a short-term rental permit in Manzanita, this is going to be one of the tougher places to get as well. Now, as far as living in this area, it does say, according to Ordinance 95-4, that a cap shall be placed on short-term rentals in R2, R3, and SRR zones. The cap shall be 17.5%. Now, because it's not distributed evenly, and I'll show you, this is the zoning map that the city provides us. Sorry, it's not the best quality. Sometimes that's what you get with these little towns along the Oregon coast. You can see a lot of R2, SRR. So these zones are going to be mostly throughout the city, and it's that 17.5% is not necessarily evenly distributed. So you're probably going to find a pretty high concentration of short-term rentals closer that you get to the coast, because that's where everybody wants to be. This is where the downtown is. This is where kind of some of the shopping is. Everybody wants to be able to walk to the beach. So you might find more like a concentration of like 50% short-term rentals in these areas. So if you're somebody that's thinking about moving to Manzanita, it's probably going to be tough to avoid the short-term rentals. If you are an investor, might be tough to get a permit here, but this is definitely one of the more popular places along the Oregon coast. Again, referring back to the occupancy and the average daily rate. How is the market performing? This metric right here from AirDNA, I can't tell you exactly how they come up with that metric, but obviously Rockaway Beach has had the best rating that we've looked at so far. Probably not a surprise being so friendly to that type of economy. All right, finally on the list is going to be Pacific City, which is just going to be south of everything that we've looked at so far. Not sure why the rating was so bad. This is kind of one of the more up-and-coming towns along the Oregon coast. You can see the average daily rate a little bit higher than the first three places that we looked at, but occupancy down a little bit lower. Not exactly sure why that is. Pacific City is actually an unincorporated city. So when that's the case, the regulation is going to defer to the county. So you'd have to get a short-term vacation rental permit through Tillamook County, which is the land of cheese, trees, and ocean breeze. And getting permits there has kind of varied in the past. There's been some moratoriums. I know there was a lottery for short-term permits just a couple of months ago in Tillamook County. So maybe not the most investor-friendly, but definitely one of the more popular places, at least anecdotally, one of the more popular places along the Oregon coast. Again, I'm not sure how that score was determined, but I can tell you a lot of people like to go to vacation in Pacific City from the valley, from Portland, from Eugene, from Corvallis. So there might still be some good opportunity in Pacific City. All right, and then finally, I have a couple of bonuses for you. There's a few places that if when you first saw this title that might have jumped out to you, you might have had a few places come to mind. And Cannon Beach might have been one of those places. Now, this says 211 active STR listings. I think according to the city's website, it's just below that. It's like 202 or something like that. Notice that score, 98. Cannon Beach is one of the most popular towns along the Oregon coast. Although they don't have nearly as many short-term rental listings as other places along the Oregon coast, the density here is going to be very, very high. There's somewhere in the neighborhood of like 1,500 people that call Cannon Beach home, or at least that list it as their primary dwelling. And it's a very small area. This is what the city's website looks like as far as all of the short-term rentals. So you can see just kind of eyeballing compared to some of the other things we looked at, like Seaside, for example, even a higher density than probably Seaside. And if we look at the number of rentals and divide it by the amount of people that live there full time, it very well might be a higher density. So Cannon Beach is going to feel very, very touristy for somebody that's thinking about living there full time, and for an investor, very difficult to get permits there. But if you can get a permit there, your occupancy rate, this is the best number that we've seen so far. The average daily rate is not low. Cannon Beach real estate in Cannon Beach is as expensive, if not more expensive, than anywhere else along the Oregon coast. So if you're an investor that can get in there, this is probably going to be one of the top places that you can invest along the Oregon coast, but it's very, very difficult to get a permit there. All right, last one for you. I want to, as you may have noticed, all of these areas really fall within the northern Oregon coast, and not surprisingly, because the most populous place in the state, kind of in the region roughly, is going to be just immediately east to Portland on the northern Oregon coast. So a lot of people from Portland vacationing kind of like Lincoln County and on up. So kind of like Waldport to Seaside. So no surprise that the areas that have the highest number of short-term vacation rentals are all going to fall up here. But if you're wondering, what about the southern Oregon coast? What do some of those things look like? Well, one place, one honorable mention is going to be Yachats. They had 280 active short-term listings there, and there's maybe just about 1,000 people or so that list that as their primary place of residence. So not a lot of people in Yachats, and quite a few short-term vacation rentals there. Occupancy rate is high as well. Average daily rate not quite as high. Real estate isn't quite as expensive down there, central to the southern Oregon coast. So for you people looking to move and avoid these things, Yachats, you might find a pretty high density. For you investors, Yachats might be a good place to look to. Now, what about the rest of the very quickly, the southern Oregon coast? Coos Bay and North Bend, which is the most populous part of the Oregon coast, there's about 25,000 people. Each town, Coos Bay, had right around 200, less than 200 short-term vacation rentals listed. And that's going to be true with a lot of these other towns along here. Probably maybe one of the higher density places was actually Gold Beach. They had almost 300, even though there's something like 4,000 or 5,000 people that call that their primary place of residence. For the most part, all of these towns are going to have very low density and short-term vacation rentals. So if you're thinking about moving there and want to avoid that stuff, shouldn't have a problem. Investors might have a little bit more difficulty finding some areas that are better than others. I should also mention with Yachats right now, there is a wait list for vacation rentals. Is it more investor friendly? Is it like a Rockaway Beach, or is it less friendly? Is it more risky like Lincoln City? It's in Lincoln County, so that already puts it at a higher risk. But as far as the town itself, I know they do thrive on a lot of tourism. So as far as the vibe goes, I wouldn't expect that to change too much in the future. Probably not the riskiest place. So I hope that gave you a better feel for where a lot of the tourism is going along the Oregon coast, where you can find it, where you can go to avoid it. If this video helped you, give me a thumbs up. Lets me know I'm doing a good job. And if you want to see more videos about what it's like to live along the Oregon coast, not just about things like tourism, but drone tours, driving tours, pros and cons, what it's like to eat, sleep, play, all the things you can possibly want to know about the Oregon coast. We have over 200 videos on our channel. Make sure and subscribe. And of course, if you're thinking about moving to the Oregon coast, I'm a licensed broker in the state of Oregon. I've helped a lot of people buy homes along the Oregon coast. I invite you to call me, text me, email me. You can find all of our contact information below. You can hit that QR code if you're watching from TV. That'll take you to our website. And until next time, take care, everyone.